Hello and welcome to the EML F1 Season 8 Championship. Today you join us for the opening race, round 1 here in Zakir for the Bahrain GP. And what a circuit for our first race of the season. Challenging, fast and of course tricky with the temperatures. This 5.412 kilometre long circuit contains 15 corners and 3 DRS zones, allowing plenty of opportunity for overtaking, such as into turn 1, 4, 11 and potentially 14, depending on how optimistic you are. My name is Yanis Mayer and today I'll be covering the action for you and hopefully throughout the rest of the season, if all goes well. If nothing tragic happens to either me or the organisers or anything. So it should be all clean though. Should be all good to go. So, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Also welcome to the OGs. Technically I'm not an OG, so it feels slightly awkward saying it, but welcome anyhow. Let's have a quick look over at our calendar. We do have 12 weeks of racing lined up ahead of us, and that happens every Wednesday evening, 7 PM GMT, which if you're in the UK, that's just 7 PM your time. Of course, if you're in other time zones, make sure to check and sync your watches for each race, because this is going to be awesome. Obviously, ending off with our Abu Dhabi GP in Yas Marina on April the 16th, classic circuit to end off the season. Now, if you are wondering what the format is for this evening, it's very simple. We've got a short qualifying format, about 18 minutes of quali, followed by half race length, which tonight is the equivalent of 29 laps. Usually it would be 57, of course that half race length means it's less distance. So we shouldn't be here for more than about 45 minutes on track, depending on, of course, the conditions, the drivers, whether there are any safety cars, any yellow flags. All of that can happen here in Bahrain, and it usually does. Cool, let's have a quick look at our points system as well. Slightly different from that of Formula 1, with 22 points on offer for the race win instead of 25. Now it's 22. 18 points for P2 and 15 points for P3, our final podium position. From P4 onwards it's 12 points and then 1 point less than the driver ahead, which means that the top 15 score points rather than only the top 10. Now you can pick up an extra point during qualifying for the fastest lap as well. And why has the music stopped? I do not know. Unless for some reason I just turned down the volume. Yes, I did. Hey, sorry. Technical issues notwithstanding, it is of course still only 1 point you get for the fastest lap in quali, pole position, as you can see, PP. For FL, it stands for the fastest lap, which is during the race. Fastest lap of the race, of course, scores another point. And in a championship with a top 15 score, every point will matter. So, we will be hopping into the action shortly. Our drivers are all ready and just waiting, to be honest. We're waiting for a couple last drivers to hop in, so hopefully we can get that underway. But here then is a look at the drivers who will be competing tonight, except I believe one driver in particular who I will confirm is not in. But in the meantime, have a look down. We can see the Red Bulls of the DLX team, DLX Alberto 14 and DLX Calu Blue. I do apologise as well if I get all these pronunciations wrong. It is the commentator's curse, so to speak. So then, in the Mercedes for the FRC Esports team, it is of course Noman and Tom taking the reins of those two silver, blue and black cars. In the McLarens we have the Evolution Racing team, Ollie and Kevin's. Over in the Ferraris we have ERS Esports with the Dutch Shadow and Turtle Master, and I believe it's Turtle Master who's been swapped out for Peggy. So if you see a Ferrari with a different name than that, then Turtle Master, just know that's what's happened. I think it might have been some issues with the pedals, either that or I think it might have been something to do with someone's health. Something along those lines. and I do need to adjust my noise levels. Uno momento. For some reason this thing just keeps dropping the mic and I have no clue why. But hopefully, you know, just let me know in the live chat and I'll be able to fix it. If it's too soft, let me know. If it's too loud, let me know. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, so just if you've got any issues, let me know. Thanks for the heads up, Maze, as well. Cheers for that. Hopefully the mic will stay where it is because for some reason the levels just drop. Anyways, back to our summary of who's here today. We've got the Xbox Pro Gamers in the Aston Martins, Meowsy Gaming and XPG James. And I think it is actually S29 who has been swapped out by XPG for Meowsy. So not quite sure who that guy is, but of course we'll see this all when we hop into the session. In the Alpines, we do have MS Websy and Lucas, who are racing for Alien Motorsport. In the Williams, we have Formula 1 Academy of France. I don't know why I changed the accent halfway through, but that is going to be... I think I forgot to write down something. That's going to be Jerem and the Grandada. I like that. In the XRB? Is that the XRB? In the... Yeah, XRB with the RBs, it's Kieran and Finjes. And in the Kick team, well, Kick Cars, racing for PEC Esports, it's Paul Ruiz and Red Flame Joe. And finally, in the Haas for QSL, it's Gabza and Nooney. But I believe it is time to hop into the action. And here we go, live over in Sakir at the Bahrain International Circuit. And boy, am I looking forward to this. We do have some cars already starting their laps. Of course, the typical strategy with qualifying in this is to just put enough fuel in for 3 laps. 1 out lap, followed by your fastest lap, and then an in lap. That way you can just maximize the kind of fuel advantage when it comes to less fuel in the car. Obviously, you run it lighter, it's going to be faster in general, and of course then it means you have optimal grip, because then you can swap out your tyres and go again. So you're pretty much just doing pit stops unless there is some sort of issue with the setup, unless you're not quite happy with it. You know, all those factors do play a part. So it looks like we have only 18 drivers in, and does seem to be the RBs missing, which will of course be the XRB team. But yeah, virtually everyone out now. Nooney still to go out on track. Jerem also still in the pits, and Kevin's has just come out. Now the tricky bit about qualifying with 18 other cars is of course finding some clean air. That is going to be the biggest challenge for most of these drivers. And of course you have the usual pressure of just performing over a single lap. I know I suck at it. I'm usually more of an endurance kind of guy. But hey ho, I'm sure these guys are all just ready and rearing to go. They've been putting in some hours. They've had the time to practice since last season and since the Season 7 Challenge Cup. So I'm sure they will be all ready to go. We follow XPG James, who's just set his first sector. And the laps will start coming in soon, but we'll have to wait. A little bit of a lock-up over a couple corners. But of course, you know, we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Now, one thing to keep in mind here in Bahrain in particular is the heat. Drivers will have to work with overheated tyres, over temperature tyres, potentially hot brakes. They also need to watch out for the abrasive surface, which means that wear will be increasing much faster than on other circuits. Add on the overheating brakes, add on the overheating tyres, and you have a recipe for disaster. So we'll just have to contend with all of that. And I do think I see a visual bug, so give me just one moment. Here we go, apologies for that. We're all good to go. Finneys, Whitey, sorry bud, I don't have your invite code, otherwise I would invite you, but you need to, I'm not sure, I think it's IRT Wimpy, you need to DM if you want access, but that unfortunately, mate, is something you'll have to sort out. I'm covering the action here, and as you can see, we've got our first couple of laps in. The McLarens of Kevin's and Zoliex putting in some decent lap times. 126.826 the time to beat the provisional pole lap time from, of course, the Evolution Racing team. They've got 2 cars up in the top 3 positions. Then, of course, you've got the Rogue Alpine of Websy, who is, of course, in the Alien Motorsport team as well. Where's his teammate, AMS Lucas, who we're actually following right now? It's at a 127.4. So there is that 4/10 gap that he needs to make up to his teammate if he wants to start fighting for those podium positions. Now, as you can see, plenty of drivers have already started to pit. And again, it comes down to that strategy I was talking about earlier of running as little fuel as possible, but just enough to get 1 out lap, 1 flying lap, and 1 in lap. That's all you need. And right now, pretty much half the grid is back in the pits to do just that. Refuel, reload the tyres, and just head straight back out on track. XPG James on an out lap again. He might have set an invalid lap time. I think that's why he maybe had an issue. Let's have a look over here. The Granddadda in the Williams, he's just set his flying lap with a 127.2. These lap times are tight. It's really close between the Granddadda and Red Flame Joe, actually, in the Sauber. There's only 9 thousandths separating them, and as the rest of the grid peel off into the pits now to come in for their pit stops, other drivers are going out, and of course Jerem is of course also coming back in. So here we go, drivers all starting to come back out. Websy in the Alpine, that in that McLaren sandwich, he just needs to set 2/10 faster on his next lap in order to take provisional pole. So let's see how this goes. It's now heading into the second sector. He's trying to warm up his tyres by weaving left and right. In terms of the temperatures here at Bahrain, you're not likely going to see much of that, although a lock-up, yeah, that'll bring up your tyres very quickly, but maybe a little too quickly, if you get what I mean. Who is going to be the first to start their next flying lap? Kevin's has just crossed the line. Let's go on board for a quick lap with him, and I do apologise if it's very loud. It is an issue we've had before, and yeah, for some reason my mic just keeps defaulting to a certain value, so I'll just have to modify some bits and bobs here and there, and do let me know if it works, and if it doesn't work, this should be better. So Kevin's through the 4th corner, turn 5 now into the S's, and he's already shaved off a 10th in that first sector. Again, he's had that 1 flying lap, he's had that 1 run, now he's back to improve on that, either with a setup change or just pick up on his mistakes from earlier. You know, all these little variables. Of the drivers also setting their laps is, of course, Websy just behind in P2, FRC Tom in the Mercedes, the 127.2, he's also setting a lap. Noben in the other Mercedes, 27.5, also out there, 27.7 from Gabza, and Alberto is also pushing for a lap time along with his teammate Kalu Blue. But here we go then, Kevin's now around the final corner as he heads towards the start-finish line. Round turn 15, what will be the new lap time to beat? It is a 126.7. That's another 10th gained over Websy. How will he respond? He's just coming through the end of the 3rd sector. Now we do have an Aston Martin that will be crossing the line before him. So that could potentially be another lap time to beat, depending on, of course, the pace of that Xbox Pro Gamer team car. And of across the line. Here comes Websy. What can he do? He can only shave off 300ths from his time. The other McLaren of Zoliex is coming through the second sector now towards the end. I'm not sure whether he'll be setting a flying lap now or whether it's his in lap. I don't know, probably a flying lap. But who knows, you know, it's a bit hard to keep track of everyone, especially if you've got 18 cars that are just going everywhere. Zoliex around the final corner. Does seem to be a flying lap. Can he improve on his time? Can he take P2? No, he can't. He has unfortunately set a slower lap time, in fact. Red Flame Joe now coming through the S's and into Sector 3 to set his lap time. He only needs to beat the Granddada by 9 thousandths in order to improve his time. Gabza isn't too far behind either in the Haas. He's only 500ths behind, but he has invalidated his lap time, unfortunately, so that will count against him. The Sauber, though, coming across the line, he has made up 2 tenths through the second sector, and he takes the P2 position with a 127.013. It is going to be a heck of a battle between Websy, Zoliex and Flame Joe for this P2 spot, unless someone can find 3 or 4 tenths to beat Kevin's for the pole position. It is 7 minutes remaining, and we do have Fingies who's managed to join. Not sure whether he'll make it into qualifying. So, of course, Gabza pulling into the pits after an invalidated lap time. Alberto in the Deluxe Esports team coming around one of the final corners. There's his teammate going round as well, and Alberto does give space for the faster cars to overtake. How will his teammate do? Carlo Bluey, I think he's pulling into the pits. He's also slow, yeah. Danir in the other kick Sauber, about to come across the line. Where will he end up? He's a whole second and 3 tenths behind the leaders, but not anymore. Only 4 tenths now with a 127.1. The Saubers not doing too badly, and there is the Granddada coming back for a good lap, and Red Flame Joe, of course, still maintaining P2. So Granddada with a 127.114. He only beats Zoliex by 3 thousandths. It is, again, incredibly close. I'm actually shocked at how close it is here. So that Sauber will likely come in for a stop. We've got Nooney in the other Haas coming around the final couple corners now into Sector 3. I suspect he's just putting into the pits. Does seem to be going slightly slow. And then we have the other Williams of Jerem, who needs to improve by a lot to be competitive. He's on a 128.4 at the moment, so plenty of room for improvement, but also plenty of places to make up in the rest of quali. 5 minutes remaining. Drivers will maybe make another 2 flying laps, I think, if they use the usual 3-lap method. 1 out lap, 1 flying lap, and 1 in lap. So we'll see how it goes. ERS Racing League official wishing everyone the best of luck. Ivo Bryn Mike, thank you, sir. And he's also wishing everyone in Con2 good luck this season. Keep the support going, guys. We absolutely love it. Cool. And Jerem manages to shave off half a second, which is impressive, but it's still at 27.9. That's 1.2 seconds off the leaders. I can't believe pretty much the whole field is only stuck within a 1.6 second gap. That is just nuts. That is really cool. That is brilliant. Kevin's in the meantime back out on track all the way up there, but here we have Pei, who has of course stepped in for Turtle Master. He has unfortunately set an invalid lap time, so he won't be doing anything. Jerem as well, XPGS29M, who I think said he wasn't participating, but who knows. Let's see, is that right? I think so. I'm not sure. Lineup changes. Oh no, sorry, S29M is stepping in for Meowsy. wrong way around. It helps if you are not... Well, I'm not dyslexic. I can't say that. Never mind. Cool. Kevin's on his lap. We catch him just in time before he comes across the line. In Sector 2, he'd already made 2 tenths. But unfortunately, that is straight into the pits for him. I think he must have had an invalid lap time there. Oh, and we catch Tom just in time to spin. Unfortunately, not a good lap time to start with anyways. So the Mercedes guys will have to bring Tom back in. Nuben, though, still out, also on an invalid lap time, so I think everyone's only got one more shot. This is that stage where everyone's made that one mistake, everyone's made that one error that cost them the flying lap, and now they're going to go one last time, just give it their absolute all or nothing, go full send. And the Red Bull of Colour Blue is, of course, such a driver, the Deluxe Esport team driver, absolutely using all of the track exit, getting onto those curbs. As he sets into Sector 3, we've got a Ferrari about to start a lap, as well as a Alpine. In fact, that's going to be the Alpine of Websy, just about to cross the line to start his lap, unless he's coming back in, which I suspect he is. Anyways, Colour Bluey, round the final couple corners, onto the start, finish straight. Where does he end up? Unfortunately, just stuck in P12. His teammate Alberto also heading into turn 14 and 15 now to set his fastest lap time. And where does he come out? It does seem to be quite a good lap time, and it is. He gains a couple positions up to P9 with a 1:27.1. Some good progress up the field for the Red Bull. I don't think he'll make it back in time for another run, and that is Noben, who unfortunately has lost it somewhere on circuit. Either just said, enough's enough, I'm not doing any more quali, or he's had an accident. It is, of course, a bit tricky to pick up on what's happening around circuit sometimes. But that locks him into P10 then for now. Of course, you do have all the variables that could happen. And I'm just looking, AMS Lucas and Alberto are only separated by 1,000th. Myth Shadow also retiring from the session with a 1:28.3. That is not good news for the driver, and Red Flame Joe on his outlap is going to be looking to set one stormer of a lap time to gain 3/10 over Kevin's for pole position. Websy is also looking for such a moment with a 1:27.028, and I have a suspicion as to who this is, I think, and that it might be the reason why I'm commentating for this season. But anyways, Websy now sending it through the second sector. His final lap time of the evening for the Alien Motorsport Racing team. Using a little bit of the curb, and here we go. There is Jerem having locked in P14 for now. At least P14, it could get worse. P7 for FRC. Tom is also locked in. Oh, and Colour Blue is also retiring from the session, and here we go. Websy across the line, and unfortunately does not manage to find the extra 3/10 that is necessary to take pole position. Kevin's on his final lap will be looking to set one lap time just to give him that little edge over Flame Joe, just in case something happens. And there is a yellow flag in the second sector. That is, of course, the Ferrari, I suspect, of PE or Myth Shadow. But Red Flame Joe will be second to cross the line. The first will be Kevin's, who comes across to set his next lap. Nooney and Jerem and Finges have all set their final laps as well. And there we go. Kevin's sets another 1:26, this time a 1:26.6 to secure that pole position. And Danny, he did improve, he did make it sub 27, but unfortunately just not enough to gain that one spot. But the Red Flame Joe also just off Grandadder across the line with a 1:26.7. All these lap times just off the leader, and Zoliax now across the line to take P2. Oh my goodness, some very dynamic runs towards the end of the session. Kevin's setting a good lap time at the final opportunity, and it was a very good thing he did so, because otherwise he might have been under threat from Zoliex, his own teammate, or the Granddada. But as it is, Kevins maintains pole position. Zoliex in P2. It's a McLaren front lockout, the Evolution Racing team holding that front row, and then the Williams of the Granddada taking P3, with the two Saubers performing quite well as well in P4 and P5. Let's see whether this reflects the race. Let's see how this goes. Who has yet to finish their laps? I suspect it might just be an AI somewhere running around, or yeah, there we go. So then, the end of qualifying. Kevin's staying ahead pretty much all the way through to pick up an extra point for pole position. Zoliex's teammate for Evolution Racing Team locking out that front grid, precisely a 10th of the pole lap time. The Granddada in the Williams taking P3, with Red Flame Joe and Danny in the two Saubers. Teammates taking P4 and P5. Let's see how this goes for the race, and we'll be back in just a few moments. Stay tuned. And I think we've just got the race started, and we do have a jump start right from the get-go. We do have just plenty of movement all over the grid, and yeah, that is going to be the restart. Please ignore me. False alarm. First time doing this. See you all in a sec. Hello and welcome back to the EML F1 Season 8 Championship Round 1, the opening race here in Sakir for the Bahrain GP. And we do apologise for the little wait, there were some hassles, and of course there was my little mess up. Yeah. But I mean, you know, that's why we're here, for entertainment purposes. But anyways, Sakir, 5.412 kilometres of track, 15 corners, about to head into our 29 lap long race. Drivers will most likely be making one pit stop, potentially more, but of course that does depend on the strategy and situations, etc, etc. Virtual safety car, yellow flags, and of course we'll be starting off the session with our usual classic standing start as our teams get ready to get their first race of the season started. The tension is mounting for the first race of the season, and yeah, I'm kind of on edge. We had the two McLarens lock out the front row for the Evolution Racing team. We had the two Saubers come in P4 and P5, looking, well, they wouldn't lock out the row, to be fair. They would just be, they'd be in two rows, but you know, two Saubers virtually next to each other. With the Rogue Grandada Williams driver, a Formula One Academy France. I'm really tempted to say France in a French accent for some reason. It's weird. Those first three words, then just prep it for like the last word to be extra Frenchy. But what won't be French is, of course, the start. We'll see if we can keep that in a normal accent. But I envision plenty of wheel smoke. These drivers are going to be pushing hard. But, of course, they all know the cars so well. This is, of course, the final season of F1 24 racing here at EML F1. We'll be moving to the new game, hopefully, when the new season starts. So these drivers have most likely gotten used to the cars and all that, unless they're new. You know, I've pretty much never played this game except for when I'm commentating on it, so I don't personally know how the mechanics actually physically work. I'm more of a GT3 driver, but these guys know what they're doing. No assists. It's going to be hectic. Here we go. The race start. 5 lights. And it's go time. 19 cars go roaring down to turn 1 to start 29 laps of racing. The two McLarens have had a good start. It's Kevin's holding to the outside. You can see the two Saubers coming to the inside. Grandada going round the outside for turn 1, and he has gained P2 as they go through the first couple corners. He's still hanging on around the outside. The McLaren is going to be pushing to regain that position, but he slots back in behind. There's a Sauber who's lost out. That is Danny, who's lost out a few positions right off the bat. We've got the two Mercedes. Tom with a great start up into P4 as everyone starts to file into their single file lines. Tom having a look around the outside. The Sauber and the Red Bull, having to go defensive, but the Mercedes has gotten past either way. Noben making some good progress, having a look around the outside at turn 10, and of course there is the usual lockups and chaos down there. Here is Noben having a look down the inside. He's got the slipstream, and oh my goodness, was that a Ferrari on top of another car further back? I think it was. Danny, in the meantime, has fallen far down the grid. Red Flame Joe having to defend from Noben. And there is the Mercedes just ahead of Tom, going down the inside of the McLaren. Zolli, oh my goodness, and there's a Sauber in the background. That is going to be Danny. Is that potentially a safety car? No, he is still moving, so might just be a yellow flag. And while all that happened, Tom managed to get up into P3 as the drivers come across the line for the first time this race to start the second lap. And you can see the drivers trying to prevent the car behind having that slipstream advantage. Tom holding up the McLaren of Zolly so that his teammate Nobin can get involved in the action. He had a look down the inside but couldn't quite get involved as much as he wanted to. So we're all relatively cleanly through the start. Danny and Shadow having to head into the pits for early damage. It is Tom, though, who is right up on the bumper of that Williams, and Grandada is also looking for the race lead, looking to make some early progress on the race lead. And look at how close they are. A little bit of contact between the front wing and the rear diffuser of the two cars, and it is really close between these three. They are literally within 0.2 of each other all the way out onto the straight. DRS has been enabled, so this will make things very interesting. You've got the two Mercedes making a move. There's Nobin in the background making a move there. No, I thought that might have been Grandada's opportunity to make a move, but not quite. He is alongside there as they go through the right-hander. Not quite as far alongside as he needs to be, though, to properly challenge as they head through turn 13 now, out into the straight. The McLaren's gone wide. Here he is, having a look down the inside. He's got the Mercedes a little distance back, so he doesn't really have to worry about it. Down into turn 15, and the door is shut by Kevins. Out into the straight, though, there are very many opportunities to be had here between the top 5 drivers, pretty much. Red Flame Joe in the Sauber can also make a position here. And there is the Williams going right past into the race lead. Oh, and Kevins, of course, with no DRS, has lost 2 positions. Tom saying, thank you very much, I'll just take P2, as Kevins goes sailing by in the wrong direction. Red Flame Joe does seem to be under threat, and he has a little bit of a tussle with the McLaren, and that allows Alberto to draw alongside as they now head into turn 5, 6 and 7. Not quite alongside, but he did have an opportunity there. So everyone then starts to settle somewhat into rhythm. It is very, very early to say that, so we'll just have to see who can settle into a rhythm the quickest and who can settle into the fastest rhythm, so to speak, as well. Websy with a horrible start, I think, down in P14. Finjies and P having a good battle for P16 right down at the bottom of the grid, but we keep our eyes up here because out onto the final couple corners we again have 4 cars battling it out for the race lead. This is close. Tom has made some good progress. Grandada gaining a position, and Kevin's unfortunately losing 2 after the turn 1 incident. He did lose out 2 positions as they use the DRS behind. Here we go, long train of cars down to the Alpine of Lucas. This is a long DRS train indeed. There is plenty of opportunities here. There's the McLaren taking a look down the inside. Kevin's wanting that position back from Grandada, pulls back in behind. On Grandada is great at applying pressure. That is one thing he has really shown in these past couple laps. He is great at applying pressure to the car ahead, and unfortunately for Kevins, that resulted in losing 2 positions, not just 1, as they now go through sector 2. Fastest lap of the race not quite under wraps yet. We do still have 25 laps of racing to go before that is decided. 25 laps in which a driver can set a faster lap time than the fastest lap at the moment. Kalu Blue and Pei having a battle down in P15, and Danny is unfortunately dead last with the huge spin that he had coming out of turn 13. That was really unfortunate. That has put him all the way down in last place, and he's actually just come around the final corner, just to give you an idea of how far behind he truly is. The race leaders then starting to build small gaps between them, 0.3 between Kevins and the Grandada, so there is potential for an overtake there. A little further down the grid, Red Flame 0.2 off the other McLaren of Zoliax, and he did have a look to the inside, maybe to try and unsettle that orange and black car ahead. And here we go now, down the start finish straight again. Just this long DRS train where drivers all have opportunities, and Tom has to concede the position to Grandada by the time they hit turn 1. Grandada using the DRS to take the race lead. There is the Williams of Grandada up into the lead position, P1. Nobin also looking for a position on McLaren, has to pull back in. There's a lot of movement up here at the top for sure. The Williams of Grandada has been waiting for the lead for a very long time, and unfortunately did not quite manage to get there. Or he did, and then Tom just came by the next corner, so a bit unfortunate for him, but now he's up into that top spot. It's up to him to build a gap to the car behind, get out of that DRS window as soon as possible. Jerem, all the way down in P12, is right up on the rear bumper of S29M, heading out onto the back straight into turn 11 is going to be the best overtaking opportunity for him. Does he take it? No, he doesn't. He does manage to close a little bit of ground. Websy in the Alpine right up behind Gabser. Websy did show some good promise during the initial stages of qualifying, but unfortunately did not manage to hold on to P3, did not manage to set a faster lap time. And there is plenty of space for an overtake here, 0.2 seconds between many of these drivers, 0.3 seconds, 0.4 seconds, as of course on the exit things can get a little wider. Tom going now around the outside of the Williams, the Grand Dada having to concede the position once more. I think these two are just going to be trading that position back and forth and back and forth. And is that Alberto with an issue? Alberto in the Red Bull has dropped loads of positions. James and Nooney also conceding some. There's Nooney in the Haas. He's just lost out to Lucas. Alberto in the Red Bull. Is there any kind of damage to him? No, I suspect he might have just got caught up in the DRS train. That might have been what happened. He's right up behind Nooney though. Pei, 3-second warning, and that is Nooney locking up into turn 8, and that has unfortunately allowed the Red Bull around into P8. And again, massive DRS train down to turn 11. Plenty of opportunities for overtaking. Right up at the top though, it is Noben who is the closest, 2/10 off of Kevins. Kevins has dropped 2 positions already. Can the other Mercedes of Noben, the other FRC eSport driver, manage to make his way past the driver who qualified for pole this race? There is still plenty of room for error, plenty of room for improvement as well, plenty of room to make up positions. Out into the main straight, he is one of the closer drivers, but Kevins has a great view of this battle ahead. Oh, and there we go, down the inside of the Mercedes. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. The Williams is now just ahead of him. He'll have DRS out onto this little stretch of road, so that is Kevins back up into P2. Can he gain the race lead in 2 corners down into turn 4? The answer is, unfortunately, he can't, and we do have 2 penalties for Finese and Pei, and there is a caution, there is a red flag for a red car. That is most likely going to be Myth's Shadow. Yes, Myth's Shadow going slowly. Is there damage to his car? It's just not as far as I can see. Red Flame Joe just got past Zolly. I can't quite see anything at this point, and he does choose to come into the pits, so I don't know, there might have been some sort of spin or issue. In the meantime though, Tom looking for P2 again. I think he backed out there just a little bit, just so that he can stay right up the rear bumper of Kevin's to have a run down into turn 1. They're going to have a great opportunity on the Grand Dada, and I'm amazed at really how Kevin's managed to make that position almost on the Grand Dada as well, almost a 2-for-1 special. Red Flame Joe, though, is really close to the Mercedes of Noben. He's looking to break into that Mercedes, get himself as the filling inside that Mercedes sandwich. Noben has had a good run out of that final corner. Everyone coming over to the side of the road, and there is the Ferrari of Myth's Shadow, who has just stopped in the pit lane. And oh my goodness, there's all sorts of things going on. The Sauber trying to make a position. Tom trying to keep his position from the Mercedes behind as well, trying to keep his position from his teammates. And Tom does have very little gap to the car behind of Noben. Can't believe how close this is. Meanwhile, the Grand Dada has lost out to Kevin's. When did that happen? I swear that happened literally just a moment ago, because at turn 1 it was still Grand Dada ahead, so it might have been in the S's and the Sauber of Red Flame Joe getting a little sideways. Zoli, will he be looking for an opportunity? Looking for any signs of weakness, looking for any run on him as they head out of turn 10 into turn 11. So Myth Shadow then unfortunately, a poor showing, having to retire from the session. And to be honest, the ERS Esports guys have not had a good evening. Payee with a couple penalties and a rough start. But for the Saubers, it's kind of a bittersweet. Danny, of course, a horrendous start to the race. He was up in the top 5, and his teammate Red Flame Joe now is looking for a position to make it further up into the top 5, into P4. But further up, we do have Tom in P3, who will be looking for that P2 position, again fighting with Grandada for that better podium spot. The Williams has got some good pace and he's got some good consistency, but there is a send from Red Flame Joe. Good send down the inside, a late lunge, but unfortunately couldn't make it stick and now has to defend from the Mercedes who goes off in the background. Some aggressive defending. Noben falls behind and Zoliax is promoted up. There is the McLaren, unfortunately also a bad exit. This is really close between the race leaders. Tom he's got a good view of this this potential fight just ahead, and he's looking to get involved. Nipping 2 between these guys. I don't think there's going to be a move into turn 11. There's usually not enough speed for that, but the Williams has had a slightly wider run. That hasn't destroyed his exit though. He still has a very good exit. So we'll see how it goes. But it was a good send from Red Flame Joe down the inside into turn 1. Unfortunately, he just had a little tangle with Noben, who lost a few positions in that exchange and tumbled a little further down the order, and Zoliax got promoted to P4. So Red Flame still in exactly the same position he is, and you can see him in shot. And he has managed to build up a 1.8 second lead over Lucas in the Alpine though. That Alien Motorsport car, the better of the two. Websy, unfortunately, down in P13 after maybe not the most ideal start. Not rubbish, but not the most ideal start. Grandada will, of course, have a good run around the outside, and he does have that move pretty much sealed as they go through the right-hander, and the Mercedes is just getting impatient now. He just wants to get past. Grandada seems to be moving around a lot with these guys. And Tom, unfortunately, can't quite make the same progress. There is a move from the Sauber behind, and just enough space has been given by Zolli to allow that green car through. And we do have our first pit stops happening for Noben, Alberto, and Nuni. Calablu also into the pits in P16. Does seem to be a bit early to pit though, I have to say, unless it was just a bug. No clue. All I do know is that Danny is unfortunately a very long way away. Now the question is, has he made his pit stop? Has he stopped to change for tyres? And well, you can't refuel on this, but has he made his stop for his tyres though? Because if he has, then he'll have to make those last for a very long time. And Noben has just been given a penalty, so I assume that's for the altercation between himself and Red Flame Joe in the Sauber down at turn 2. And look at how close that McLaren is to the Mercedes. It's actually gone right through, and that is Tom peeling off into the pits to make his pit stop. So the pit stops are starting to roll in. They're starting to happen now as the drivers get into it. Kevin's he's feeling the need to defend, but his teammate Zolli though has the opportunity to go down the inside of the Williams, and he does do so, and he's ahead by the time they get out of turn 2. Good move from the Williams to again make it a McLaren 1-2, and the Sauber wants a move as well. Grandada having to take evasive action there, and he goes wide, and Red Flame Joe now finds himself in P3. Zolli with a move, Red Flame Joe with a move, and unfortunately Grandada losing out to 2 positions. That is not going well for him at all. He's been fighting for that P1 position. He's held it for a little while and then just got schooled by the 2 drivers ahead. So some good overtaking from those 2. Websy is making some progress up the grid, of course, due to those pit stops. The 2 Mercedes down in P11 and P12 will be aiming potentially for the 2 podium positions. 3.3 seconds between Noben and Tom though. So I think that gap is likely going to stay that way. As it stands then, Kevin's back into the race lead, Zolli back into P2, Red Flame Joe up into P3, and Grandada down to P4, while Lucas finds himself in P5 under a second, so he's got that DRS window now. He can start reeling these guys in, start pulling a little bit closer, and he has managed to do so already. 0.8 seconds. The T2. And there we go. That works much better. Cool. Found the issue. Sorry, ladies and gents, a little technical issue, but we do it live. In the meantime, Red Flame Joe lost out to Zolly, and of course Lucas is now fighting for the top 3 positions. My bad. Figured out the issue. So hopefully that's all back up and running. Kevin's in P3. He's lost out a position as well. Lucas has managed to make his way past James for P4, and suddenly we have 2 Aston Martins. Actually, no, sorry, Lucas got past Grandada, who I assume is pitted while we had the technical issues. Yeah, for some reason my mic thing's giving us all sorts of hassles tonight. But there we go, pit stops are in full swing now. Drivers have got... They've made a couple positions, but again, that's only due to the pit stops. So there's all sorts of chaos now as the pit stops unravel themselves, as the strategies come through for each team. Here is Kevin's coming across the line, and it's not too big a gap to Joe, who will be looking to retake the race lead. Again, Zoliax holding that inside line, but Joe says, no worries, I'll go the long way around. And Zoliax actually also allows Kevin's pass. Lucas is getting involved. I feel like there is a good amount of teamwork between these two. These guys are working hard to keep Lucas at bay. They're working hard to keep... They're working hard to try and keep each other safe and to build a gap, but unfortunately it hasn't worked out too well so far. Joe is in the lead right now, and Lucas is nipping at Zodiac's heels. There's only 0.2 seconds, so there could be an opportunity for an overtake if a mistake is made in the next couple corners. And of course there is the usual DRS zones that could provide ample opportunity. 0.3 seconds between them. Further down, the Granddada in P10 has got a massive gap to Tom. So that, I think, has been a poor pit stop for him. Tom in the Mercedes is doing well. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes long term. Cool. 0.2 seconds between Gabza and Websy, and looks like Danny has retired from the session. Is that due to damage or other factors? I don't know. All I know is that Lucas is looking for an excuse to get past this McLaren. He has the DRS, goes around the outside, and the other McLaren also makes a move for the lead. And oh my goodness, the Alpine getting really close to the rear end of that car ahead. Oh my goodness, and that is Kevin's, who spun out. And Red Flame Joe also loses out to Lucas. Lucas takes the race lead. It was almost 3 wide there into turn 4. But yeah, contact between Kevin's and Joe, resulting in a spin. That has gone very wrong. Oh my goodness, that has not gone well at all. Lucas assumes the race lead. And lap 16, Zodiac taking P2 and Red Flame Joe P3. I'm sure the stewards will have plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss. Oh my goodness, that just suddenly happened. So Kevin's made a move into turn 1. Got it done, pretty much. And then Red Flame Joe maybe just a little bit impatient behind, not quite giving him enough space. And then the spin results. Gabza and S29 swap positions. And Websy is now 1.1 seconds off James, who's 3.4 seconds off these race leaders. So there is now a bigger kind of gap, so to speak. The top 3 now, the only guys within DRS, within the top 5, within the DRS window. And then you've got a couple other cars, but it's not going to stay that way for much longer. Here is Zoliac potentially having a look down the inside, and he does. He's got that move done by the time they hit the apex. Big look up on the right hand side. Gets it stopped at least. And it's just done and dusted. Lucas, not quite close enough for a move into turn 4. That's how you see it generally go, is they get past turn 1. Can't really do anything about it. But Red Flame Joe is applying some good pressure to Lucas in the Alpine. And there it is, a move down into turn 8, lockups galore, and he's along the side now as they head into the double left-hander of turns 9 and 10 next. He's not quite close enough down the inside into the left-hander. He's got his wheels on the inside, but unfortunately on the exit he just couldn't keep that together. Some good racing between these two, some good aware racing, and as that happens, Zolly starts pulling out a small lead, but he hasn't managed to pull out as big of a lead as I'd imagine he might have under these conditions. Red Flame Joe applying plenty of pressure to Lucas. These three are all realistically fighting for the race lead, not just their order in the top 3. Yeah, they are, obviously, but everyone's going for that top position. You know, we might see Red Flame Joe come out on top in the race lead by the end of this corner. We'll see. He is very close, though. Yeah, that is him heading into the pits, though. So his opportunity at taking the race lead, not quite there this time round. And Lucas manages to make his way past as per usual. And now all the pit stops happen. And while that goes on, the race leaders. 0.2 seconds between them. Is Joe going for the undercut? I think so. Although it is a bit late for a pit stop, isn't it? Lap 14 is roughly around where you'd expect most drivers to pit. Now most guys are coming in. So it might be that they've thrown on a harder compound tyre to start with, and then they're going for a softer compound tyre towards the end, or, depending on the track conditions, they are probably just going straight back out onto that hard tyre compound. Gabza, 0.2 seconds off of the Aston Martin of S29, the QSL eSport driver, looking to make quick work of the Xbox Pro Gamer driver. 0.2 seconds as they head down the back straight into turn 11. There it is, a look down the inside, and that is a move from the Aston Martin, but the Haas is not bullied. Gabza, unfortunately, also gets hip-checked, side-checked by the Aston Martin on the way through, and is back down to P4. S29 not quite happy allowing the Haas back through. Yeah, probably something to look at in the future at some point. That was not clean in the slightest. Gabza will be, of course, looking for an opportunity, but as they both peel into the pits, that will be after the pit stops. It has come really close though. We'll see how these pit stops go. So then, it's Lucas who is still out. We'll take this opportunity to quickly have a look at the positions. Lucas up 7 positions. Noben just lost out to the Grandada. P8, no he hasn't. They've just come out right. Oh, so the Grandada has just come out right behind Noben. That is interesting. So you can see 3 drives there, Noben, Grandada and Alberto in the top 4, all separated by about 0.2 at the moment. The Grandada back in his starting position, 5 positions gained for the Red Bull of Alberto. XPG James, the biggest gainer here with 12 positions, and the biggest loser, so to speak, is of course Kevin's down in P10. He started out the race in P1. He started out the race in pole position, but unfortunately got tapped out by Red Flame Joe in the Sauber, and I can imagine some form of penalty heading his way soon. Alberto going around the outside of the Sauber in the background there. Red Flame Joe having to go. He didn't go defensive, but he certainly was aware of the Red Bull in his rear view mirrors. So everyone's pretty much made their pit stops, and most of them, a lot of them are on the soft tyres, and one of them is of course the Sauber of Red Flame Joe, who had a look down the inside into turn 13, but unfortunately didn't quite manage to get the move done. Out into the main straight though, we do have plenty of movement here. The Grandada going right behind the Mercedes, and Red Flame Joe round the outside just says thank you very much guys, as y'all squabble I'ma take the race lead, and that is Red Flame Joe up into P1, first place for the Sauber. Back again, the Grandada fighting for P2, and Noben in P3 after that exchange. Alberto out of nowhere it seems in P4, also looking to start fighting for positions. Further down we do have James and Lucas going head to head for P6. They're going to start, I mean, I think it might be worth working together to try and close that 2.5 second gap to Zoli in P5, so that they can, start working on that gap. But to each their own. It is a big gap to the Grandada though, right up at the top. 1 second as Alberto and Zoli swap positions. Half a second now. So Zoli managed to make up that gap again and get past. Good stuff. Gabza down in P10. Be looking to make his way past Kevin's at some point as well. It's just been non-stop action. It's been incredible. Haven't even managed to get around to my fun facts. Not that I have a clear sheet of them. I just have like a Google Docs open. But it is close between these two. Zoli also only... Well, he's just gone past him down on the main straight. I was about to say 0.1 seconds between them. There is now 0 seconds between them. In fact, it's plus 0.1 seconds at this point. Noben losing out to Zoli, who makes his way back into the podium positions, back to start fighting for the race lead again. But Red Flame Joe has managed to make a small lead for himself. He's managed to build a 1.2 second gap to the Grandada behind to stay outside that DRS window. So it'll be much harder for the Grandada to stick to the rear of that Sauber, and he's just made a mistake, in fact, and is now 1.6 seconds behind the Sauber. Zolli will be pouncing soon. He'll be looking for his opportunity. Zolli in the McLaren, 0.3 seconds as they come out of turn 10. Here we go, he's already down the inside, and he is pretty much alongside, and that is his position by the time they hit the left-hander. I think that's the first proper overtake we've seen in there. We had a little altercation between Gabza and S29 earlier, but nothing came. Well, Gabza ended up being punted and side-checked out of the way, and unfortunately that did cost him the position. That was when they were fighting for P4, but at the moment he's all the way down in P9. So all the pit stops are pretty much done. It's now pretty much just an 8-lap sprint straight to the end. Lucas with a time penalty there. Nobin also with a penalty, Nooney and Pei. Those are all 3-second time penalties. This could make things interesting because now Alberto just needs to stay within 3 seconds of Nobin and he'll be promoted up to P4. Lucas will probably be cancelled out, but James could make an extra position there as well for P6 if he stays close enough, and he is actually closing the gap to Lucas. He doesn't quite need to essentially wait. He could wait, but then at the other end of things, you know, he could just make his way past. Websy also gets a 3-second time penalty all the way down in P8, and oh, what a move from James, a late one onto the Red Bull of Alberto, and that seems to be a bad exit from Nobin as well. Oh my goodness, all sorts of things happening. Tyre degradation may be playing a role here. Driver's not quite used to the loss of grip, and Lucas, no DRS for him, and he is a second behind the Grandada. So once again, we have that 3-leader kind of lead over the rest, but this time there's about a 1.7 second gap between each of them. S29 down in P11, right up behind Gabza. He's going to be looking to make a move. He's already hip-checked the Haas ahead. Will it be a second time? I hope not. We did have some contact heading into turn 11 as the Aston Martin tried blocking his position, tried moving slightly under braking, but not quite. Further up though, Lucas in P4. He'll be looking for a position up into P3, the final podium position, and he has managed to make it stick down into the braking zone. That is Lucas back up into P3. Alberto and Noman just behind, also swapping positions for P4. This is just going back and forth at this point. There are so many things happening. But at the moment, it is Red Flame Joe who stays in the race lead. Now, I'm wondering then, if he hasn't gotten a penalty yet, but Noban and Lucas have for other reasons, could that potentially be that maybe Kevin spun himself out? I don't know, it just seemed too convenient. Red Flame Joe was going slow, and that was when the Grandada made his way past, or it was Red Flame Joe, one of the two made their way past and just made the move stick. Either way, it is now Red Flame Joe in the lead with Zoli, P2 back where he started, and Lucas fighting for that final podium position. His teammate though, Websy, is defending from Gabza now, 0.2 seconds between them, and of course another 0.2 seconds to the Aston Martin behind. Kevin's under siege from S29, the other Aston Martin as well, so there could be all sorts of things happening, and James now gets a penalty as well, 3-second time penalty. All sorts of things happening, all sorts of penalties being applied everywhere. At this point, we could just resume the normal racing. At this point, the racing could just be normal. Nobin up in P5. There we go. And the Aston Martin of James also making his way past Alberto. Is that another position on Nobin, though? Almost there, and yes, it is. The double overtake for James. Great move. Brilliant move. And he's got that security of the 3 seconds, but that could allow Alberto and Gabza up. Again, these more, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8 drivers, 8 out of the 17 have got 3-second time penalties. So if the other 8 drivers, the other half of the grid, just keep it clean, they could gain a load of positions. Tom, unfortunately, down in P12, the other Mercedes won't be making any positions course, Websy has got that more than a 3-second gap to the Mercedes behind, so he'll be just fine. He won't have any issues with that. It's more for Nobin, I'd say, who's going to struggle. Alberto might get past James in the end, and the Granddada maybe past Lucas as well into P3. He's definitely worked hard enough for it, so we'll see how that goes. 0.4 seconds is the closest gap at this point, half a second as the grid now makes their way over the line for the 25th time. Only 4 laps remaining. I can't believe the time's flown by. It's literally been non-stop talking about just the racing. And, you know, it doesn't feel like we've even had some proper conversations. Alberto looking to cut the conversation short with Nobin into turn 1, round the outside. Shown the door, unfortunately, and Mercedes holds on to P6. He does have that 3-second penalty, though, so as long as he's patient, he can make 2 positions here. James has also got that penalty, remember. So as long as Alberto just stays patient, he could potentially get past these guys. He could get past into P5, top 5 finish, easy. And S29 is really close to the back of the Haas of Gabza. Is he looking for an opportunity into turn 11? Optimistically, maybe turn 8, depending on the exit. The Haas does have a good run out of the corner, though, so there's no opportunity for that. 0.2 seconds as the DRS gets enabled. And we do, of course, have loads going on. Everyone, everywhere, looking for a move into turn 11, or at least just close the gap so that they can have a run on the final corner. 0.2 seconds between S29 and Gabza. That is the closest gap, except between Alberto and Nobin for P6 and P7. There is that battle going on. Whew, turn 1, as usual, gonna be exciting. Lap 26 gets underway, 4 laps remaining in this race. Now things are going to be spicing up as drivers get desperate as they start pushing their cars over the limit rather than play it safe. Maybe some drivers could play it safe, for example Alberto, but he chooses to get past the Mercedes if he can. But some good defending from the Mercedes driver of Nobin. Kevins is now right up on the rear end of that McLaren. That is a very familiar sight from the 2024 F1 season. Of course, Lando Norris, who was putting Verstappen under pressure towards the end of the season, dropped it slightly, but that's irrelevant. We've now got Kevins back up into the fight in the top 10. S29, P10, Gabza, P9, Kevins, P8, and Alberto, P7. There isn't really much that could be done about the race lead yet for Lucas, who is 1.3 seconds behind the Sauber. It's been a great race for Joe. He's had some good runs, and it seems he has managed to stay penalty free so far, but there is a bit of confusion going on down here. Kevins has got the DRS, so does the Haas, so does the Aston Martin. It's again just this massive DRS drain. Everyone able to stick to the rear end of the car ahead within a second gap. It is really, really close though between Gabza and Kevins. Look at how close these guys are driving, bumper to bumper, as they head into the final couple corners. 3 laps to go. We are counting them down. Red Flame Joe still 1.1 seconds ahead. 0.7 seconds to P2 is Zoliex in the final podium position. Into turn 1, though, I can envision plenty of chaos. Kevins has had a good run out of the final corner. There it is. He's already made the move on Alberto. Can he catch up to Nobin now? 1.3 seconds ahead. He'll be looking for that. He'll be looking for an answer soon, but he's right up behind him anyways. And Gabza also made a position on Alberto. So Alberto may be taking the advice of staying behind the car ahead, the car with a 3-second time penalty, a little too seriously. Oh, and Kevins is desperate to make up some positions as well. As we said, all that desperation is starting to creep in, and Red Flame Joe somehow has managed to lose his lead of 1.3 seconds and is now down to 0.4 seconds. So he could see a final large battle for the lead, but Lucas then needs to make a 3-second gap to Red Flame Joe in the closing stages of this race, and that's only 2 laps. He's only got 2 laps to do that. So unless something goes horribly wrong, that could be Lucas in the top 5 maybe. He's definitely, okay, so he might hold on to the podium positions. Zoliex is caught back up though, so that is probably Zoliex up into P2. But yeah, we need to keep an eye on these guys because they're going to be having a big fight soon. Into turn 1, we're going to have potentially one of the final large fights of this race. Lap 28, we only have 2 laps to go. Again, we're counting down every single lap. The tension just keeps building. Joe, he was in such a good position to start with. He had a good lead into turn 1, and there is the Alpine potentially having a look. Late move. Kevins has managed to get past Noben, unless it's actually Noben who's lost out with a mistake. I suspect he has. But I want to keep an eye on these 3 guys at the top because this is going to be very interesting. 0.2 seconds between Lucas and the Sauber ahead, but all 3 of them are on their soft tyres. It's then just a question of who's been on it longer, and we can actually answer that with this detail. And they're all pretty similar. They're all very, very similar. So there's pretty much nothing between these 3 fighting it out for the final. Well, sorry, why did I say that? It's all 3 fighting for the top positions. All 3 fighting for the race lead at this point. The first race win of the season at stake here between these 3 drivers as they make their way now to the end of the second sector for the penultimate time. Zoli is close to the back end of Lucas. Again, all Zoli has to do is just, he could play it safe. He could just stay within 3 seconds if he's happy to settle for P2. But of course we know the race win is such an appealing prospect, and the Grand Dada receives a 3-second time penalty. Yet another added to the roster. He will lose out to James in the long run. 0.2 seconds now. Lucas looking to get past the Sauber. Final lap of the race, ladies and gents, and he has managed to make his way past round the outside. There is the McLaren potentially looking down the inside. Bad exit for the Sauber though. Joe struggling slightly, but of course now Lucas, he's got the race lead plus a 3-second time penalty. So this could still be a race win for Red Flame Joe if he can stay close to the rear of Lucas. So Zoli and Joe will be having at it for the race win at this point. Websy has just made his way past Kevins, and there is a caution in Sector 1. And that looks to be between Nooney and Tom down in P12 and P13. And what has happened there is that is a very slow moving Tom. And more penalties being applied. Oh my goodness, there's penalties all over the place. Look at this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 penalties now. Final lap of the race though. Red Flame Joe within a second of Lucas. Zoli 2.8 seconds. He's going to lose that P2 position if he's not careful round the final corner. It is Lucas who will be crossing the line first, but Red Flame Joe is within that 3-second time penalty gap, and he will then take the race win. But it's Zoli behind who unfortunately passes out of that gap, so he will not manage to hold on to P2. He gets relegated, but Red Flame Joe crosses the line to win the Bahrain GP. And here we go, a last little battle for P4 as the Grand Dada crosses the line, and he is demoted to P6. Of course, with all those penalties applied, there is a big shake-up. So Red Flame Joe takes the race win, the first race win of the season, Season 8 Con 2. A great performance, honestly, absolutely awesome. Good clean racing from him, except potentially for that incident with the other McLaren of Kevin's down in P8. I think there might be something with that. Do I see an end plate just flying through the air in the background? But Lucas then, he did manage to stay ahead of Zoli. Somehow he managed to stay outside of 3 seconds, so he managed to build that 3-second gap. Brilliant. That's perfect. And then, of course, you had the heart of Gabza somehow making his way up into P4. Some good late overtakes to take the race. Well, P4. Almost had a race win. You can tell it's been a stressful couple last minutes. But yes, it has indeed been such an incredible race. What a way to start off the season. Our podium finishes: Joe, Lucas and Zodiacs. And what a race. Red Flame Joe in the Kick Sauber, starting from 4th on the grid, managed to climb his way to the race win. Lucas, even with that time penalty, managing to secure a podium for the Alpine of Alien Motorsports. The McLaren of Zoli, unfortunately losing out a position, but at the end of the day, still a podium finish for him. Gabza, the race kind of driver of the day in the Haas, starting from P11 up to P4, and the fastest lap as well. That is going to be a good haul of points for the Haas team. Unfortunately not so for his teammate Nooney, who's down in P12. But that then, ladies and gents, concludes our evening here. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next week for yet another race over in Australia.